The major focus of Statseeker version 5.6.2 was simplifying SNMP v3 device discovery. We want to provide the same discovery options regardless of whether the device communicates via SNMP v2 or 3. So discovery via IP ranges or the host file, and have the discovery process be able to handle the various SNMP credentials required to communicate with the devices on the network. This goal led to changes not only in discovery, but also how Statseeker manages IP address ranges and SNMP credentials. Let's start there. In the admin tool, under Network Discovery, we now have SNMP credentials. You can see here some existing credentials, SNMP v1 and 2 simply specifying the community string, and SNMP v3 credentials referencing the specific encryption and privacy configurations required for the devices on the network. Similar changes have been made for IP address ranges. Rather than the single IP range statement from earlier versions, you can now break that up into as many discrete range configurations as makes sense for your network and how you manage it. And if we move on to the network discovery, you can see that we've consolidated the various discovery screens with discovery via ranges or the host file, ping-only discovery, manual discovery, and the rewalk process all on the same screen here. The default discovery process uses all of the saved credentials that we saw previously and references all of the enabled IP range configurations. But we can tailor the discovery to only target specific IP ranges or reference specific sets of SNMP credentials. And in the advanced options, we can further tailor the process with respect to how Statseeker deals with existing devices, how the server manages the SNMP walk process of the discovery, some interface monitoring options, and what post-discovery actions to take, primarily looking at auto grouping. And we've also updated the discovery output. In addition to the discovery log, we've got a running summary indicating where we are in the process and the outcome of each step. Off to dashboards. Here we've got one of the default dashboards, the interface overview. And I'm looking at a switch and we've got a lot of data in here, but let's focus on the utilization graph. So here we have utilization rates for the interfaces on the switch over the last 8 hours. Statseeker collects the data every minute for every interface on the network, and we can zoom in to confirm that we have minute-by-minute data. Statseeker version 5.6.2 substantially improves the performance of retrieving the data and then rendering it in the dashboard graphs. And this is really apparent when we look at very large data sets. So let's push this graph out to, say, 14 days. Statseeker retrieves and renders the data in about a second. How about 60 days? We can zoom in to review the data. And we still have that 1 minute granularity right there. But 2 months is nothing. Let's do 2 years. A couple of seconds. 2 years worth of 60-second polling intervals across every interface on the switch. Again, let's zoom in. And here we are at just before midnight on the 7th of September, 2022. And we can again review that historical data minute by minute. There's also been a whole range of minor changes, and you'll want to refer to the release notes for the full scope. But to highlight a few of the notables, we've got security improvements, including an OS upgrade to FreeBSD 13.3 release P5. Now, do note that with this change, while it won't affect the upgrade process, fresh installs and server restoration will require that the BIOS be set for an EFI boot. We've already seen some of the major changes in Discovery, but there's a lot of other items in there, such as adding the ability to import IP address range configurations from CSV, improved management of auto grouping options, and there's really a lot of changes that we just haven't showcased here. So see the release notes for details. We've added a new dashboard user role, the restricted role, which prevents access to dashboard content entirely. We've modified the Meraki network polling status values, so it's much easier to differentiate between when polling a network fails and when polling a network has been halted because it exceeded a defined rate limit. And again, in the API, as always, there are a wide range of changes. You'll need to refer to release notes for details on these, but do keep in mind the discovery changes. If you are running discovery via the API, do familiarize yourself with the API changes in that regard, updating your scripts as needed. And there's examples and a migration guide in the API documentation looking at these discovery changes. That's a quick look at what's new in Statseeker version 5.6.2. Again, refer to the release notes for details, reach out to the sales team. I'll be more than happy to walk you through all the changes which are going to be specifically relevant to the way you're using Statseeker.